Morning, 6th grade. Welcome to lesson 31 of math. You had a new power up today, power up G, where we're working with adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions, some with common denominators, some without common denominators. So that one is a good one. Hopefully you got the quiz done on the back side, and then we'll be back here to work the problems. I'll read the answers. I'm going to go across the rows. When I added the top, I got 4. 3 stay the same, so I had 4/3. That simplifies to 1 1/3. Subtract, 1/3. Multiplication, multiply the top 4, multiply the bottom 9. Division, stay, change, flip. So I have 2/3 times 3/2. They cancel out, you're left with a 1. Okay. The other thing you could have just done is any number divided by itself is obviously 1. Next row, add them together. I got 4/4, which equals 1. Subtract them, I got 2/4. That reduces to 1/2. Make sure you're reducing. Multiply the top 3, multiply the bottom 16. Stay, change, flip that last one, you have 4/1. The 4's cancel, you're left with a 3. Next row, now I have to find common denominators. In the first one it's 6, so it's 4/6 plus 3/6 equals 7/6, simplifies to 1 1/6. 4/6 minus 3/6 equals 1/6. Multiplication, I cancel those 2's. I'm left with 1/3. Division, stay, change, flip. You got the 2's on the top now. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 stay. The 3 times 1 is 3. 4/3 simplifies to 1 1/3. Final row. Common denominators are 12. So I have 9/12 plus 8/12 equals 17/12. 17/12 simplifies to 1 5/12. 9/12 minus 8/12 is 1/12. Multiplication, I cancel the 3's, and then I divide the 2 and the 4 by 2, so 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2, I'm left with 1/2. Stay, change, flip, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 2 is 8, 9/8 simplifies to 1 1/8. So make sure you're finding those common denominators and doing everything necessary with that. Let's see the middle section on the mental math. Step 1, you subtracting, you have $3.01. B, you're multiplying $2.45. C, equivalent fractions multiplied by 4 gives you 8/12. Reducing is 3/4. The square root of 100 is 10. 3 squared is 9. 10 plus 9 is 19. Divide by 4 into 60 is 15 times 3 is 45. Estimate the sum, that would be 90 plus 60 is 150. Start with the number of degrees in a right angle, 90. Divide it by 2, 45. Add 5, 50. Divide by 5, 10. Minus 1, 9. Square root of it is 3. Problem solving says this. 14 blocks were used in this 3-layer pyramid. Question number 1. How many blocks were needed to build a 5-layer pyramid? Okay guys, so I look at the first one, obviously there's just 1 on top. And the next one is 2 times 2, that gave me 4. So 1 plus 4 gave me the 5 on the thing. Then I took the bottom layer of that 3 one. 3 times 3 is 9. Add it to the 5 gives me 14. So now we're going to the 5-layer one. Well, the first thing I did is 4 times 4, the new layer, would be 16. 16 plus 30 would, 16 plus 14 would give you 30. Now to answer question 1, I do 5 times 5, that's 25. I add it to the 30, and how many blocks would be needed to make a 5-layer one? 55. The second question was, how many blocks would be on just the bottom layer of a 10-layer one? Well, all they're saying is, what are you doing with the 10? You're taking it 10 times 10, and 10 times 10 would be 100. Now, that's not how many total blocks, guys. That's just 100 on there. So you are literally working with perfect squares. To find how many total blocks were in that, you do 100 plus 81 plus 64 plus 49 plus 36, with all the perfect squares added together to get what they were doing on problem solving. Okay, last week we had one short lesson on an investigation because it was that short week. We worked with coordinate planes. Remember, x's go horizontal, positive to the right, negative to the left. Y's go vertical. It's the second number given. X is first, y second. Y positive up, y negative down. And we're going to start to graph a lot of problems then. Today we're moving on to lesson 31, where we're reading and writing decimal numbers. We'll work a number of examples. Remember, the examples go on the bottom of your quiz down here as we start working those things. Hopefully you have your yellow folder out, which we give you a few just helpful hints with it. I don't have any blanks for you to fill in. It says this: we have used fractions and percents to name parts of a whole. we remember that a fraction has a numerator and a denominator. The denominator indicates the number of equal parts of the whole. The numerator indicates the number of parts that were selected. They show that to you. Parts of a whole can also be named by using decimal fractions. Now, I don't like that they use the word decimal fractions, guys, because you're like, is it a decimal or is it a fraction? It's a decimal, but it's parts of a whole, so we're breaking it apart. Anyways, in a decimal fraction, we can see the numerator, but we cannot see the denominator. The denominator of a decimal fraction is indicated by the place value. On the following page is the decimal fraction 3/10. We know the denominator is 10 because only one place is shown to the right of the decimal place, 3/10. The decimal fraction 0.3 and the common fraction 3/10 are equivalent. Both are read 3/10. Okay, so last times I'll say, what's that decimal number? We'll say 0.3. Guys, if you want to make math easy for you, speak math. So stop saying 0.3 and start saying 3/10. Then today's lesson will be a piece of cake because they're going to say, write this as a decimal and write this as a fraction. Well, if I say 3/10, I just wrote the fraction, didn't I? A decimal fraction written with 2 digits after the decimal point, or 2 decimal places, is understood to have the denominator of 100, as shown here. So this is 3/100ths, or 21/100ths. A number that contains a decimal fraction is called a decimal number, or just a decimal. So now they get down to what you and I usually call it. So you have 12 and 345 thousandths. Alright, example 1, it says write 7/10 as a fraction and as a decimal. Okay, so as soon as I say 7/10, I need to know, number 1, this is 7/10 as a fraction. It's just putting my words into a fraction form. And then you're going to see on the next page, guys, or you know it already when you have your decimal chart, the 7 is in the tenths position, which is the first one. There's no such thing as a oneths position. So if you think of all the numbers we know to the left of the decimal, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, it's the same thing to the right of the decimal, except there's no such thing as a once. Now, lots of times you are told, make sure you always put a 0 in front of the decimal point. So if I was going to write 1/10, it would look like this. Now, one reason I was taught that is to say, look, how would you read this number backwards? You would read that number backwards as 10. Okay, that's how I know this is in the tenths position. I don't know if that helps you, but that's one reason I was taught to put a 0 there, besides the fact that that's just a common way to write it, and sometimes our decimal points are so small we don't see those decimal points, but if there's a 0 there, we assume the decimal point. Example 2, it says name the shaded part. They have this thing chopped into 100. So I'm counting tens, 10, 20, 1, 2, 3. So this is 23/100ths. As a decimal, I need to make sure that 3 is in the hundredths position, tenths position, boom, decimal point, 0, 23/100ths. Bottom of the page, it reads like this. In our number system, we place a digit that has a value called place value. We remember that places to the left of the decimal have the values of 1, 10, 100, 1,000, and so on, becoming greater and greater. Places to the right of the decimal have the values of 1/10, 100, 1,000, so on, becoming less and less. This chart shows decimal place values from millions through millions. Awesome. Example 3. In the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, which digits is in the thousands place? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. The 5 is. I just got to practice writing that in the order from as I move to the right. Number 4. Name the place occupied by the 7. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. It is occupying the 10,000ths. Guys, the spelling of everything is the same to the right and to the left, except when you're to the right, you just have to add a THS. So 1,000, slap a THS on top of it. Continuing on, it says to read a decimal number, we first read the whole number part, and then we read the fraction part. To read a fraction part of a decimal number, we read the digits to the right of the decimal point as though we were reading a whole number. This number is the numerator of the decimal fraction. Then we say the name of the last decimal place. This number is the denominator of the decimal. So it says, please read this decimal number. So I always chop this in half, guys, with my decimal point. How do I read this? 123. Good. How do I read this? 123. Now I need to add one more word here, and that's what place is in the last digit. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So I put it together. 123, decimal point gets the word and, 123 and 123 thousandths. Okay? So So you're focusing on this last place value, and don't forget the word and. And is only used for decimal points. Lots of times we say it wrong, like, what's this number? 123, and you see how I slipped the and in there? 123, don't say and, that messes us up. A lot of people speak wrong, guys, when they do math like that, so make sure we're not doing that. Turn the page is example 6. It says use digits to write these decimal numbers. 75,000. So I know I have the number 75, guys. But now I got to get it in the thousands position. So thousands, hundredths, I don't have a tenths. I need to put a 0 there to hold that place value. Decimal point and 0, 75 gets over to the thousands position. Here I have 100 and. So as soon as I see this word and, guys, I focus on this number. This is 100. And means decimal point. Now I got to get to 11 hundredths. I know the number is 11 hundredths, tenths. I don't need any 0 to hold it. Okay, so I kind of left a gap there to say, did I need a 0? No, I didn't need to put any zeros in because I have it there. So I'll make it look better. 111 hundredths. Okay, this is going to be difficult for us in the future because what they're going to do is they're going to start having us add decimal numbers together. And so they're going to say, write the number 111 hundredths and 222 hundredths. And see how they got two numbers but three ands. And the one and is separating decimal, the other and is separating decimal, but the middle and is the two numbers that we've put together. So make sure you learn to read very, very carefully. All right, 6, you got A through J. If you want some extra practice with this decimal number is going to be, for some of us it's challenging keeping those places. It's a good practice. I got a beautiful chart on the classroom wall here. I put it into your folder on that front side on lesson 31 in your yellow folder. Feel free to use that to know if you need to put a 0 in there to keep the place value necessary as we read those things. All right, let's get set to work some problems. See, right here we go, cruising through 31's problems. We start with the number 1. It says Ms. Gonzalez's class and Mr. O'Brien's class were going to use money they raised school raffle to buy several new maps. The maps cost $89.89. Ms. Gonzalez's class raised that much money. Mr. O'Brien raised that much money. How much more do they need? So step 1, I got to figure out how much money they raised by adding those together. So I got $26.47. I'm going to add to it $32.54. 7 plus 4 is 11, carry the 1, 1, 4, 5 is 10, carry the 1, 1, 6, 2 is 9, and 2 and 3 is 5. So they raised $59.01. They have a total cost of $89.89. So now I take my answer and I subtract it from $89.89. So I got an 8 and an 8. Decimal straight down, 9 minus 9 is 0, 8 minus 5 is 3, and I got an answer of $30.88. Number 2, Norton read 4 books during his vacation. The first book was $326, next one was $288, third one was $349, fourth one was that. What is the average? Average says step 1, add them all together. So I have 326. I have 288. I have 349. I have 401, and I'm going to add them all together. 10, 14 would be a 24. Carry the 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Plus 8 is 12. Plus 4 is 16. Carry the 1. 4, 5, 6, 9, 13. I take my 1364 now, step 2, and divide it by the number there are, which is 4. That goes in there 3 times is 12. Subtract it a 16. That goes in there 4 times, that's 16. Subtract 0, bring down that 4, goes in there 1. He averaged 341 pages. I look to see if it makes sense. Less than 341, less than 341, more, yep, makes sense, 341. Example 3, a 1-year subscription to a monthly magazine costs $15.96. At that price, what does each issue cost? So I have $15.96. We're going to start getting these on our test, guys. And it's a monthly subscription. It's a yearly subscription for a monthly magazine. So I got to divide by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So the division goes, I get a 12, bring down a 3, I get a 9. It goes in there 3 times, that's 36, subtract 3, that one's going to also be 3, and it's going to cost me $1.33 per month for my yearly subscription. Number 5, A square and a regular hexagon share a common side. The perimeter of the square is 24. Describe how to find the perimeter of the hexagon. I would find it like this. 24 divided by 4 would give me 6. So if I'm writing that out, guys, divide the square by 4. Why? Because there's 4 sides. Then take my answer times 6. Why? Because there are 6 sides on a hexagon. And so they didn't ask me for the answer, guys. The answer is 36 inches, but they said, how do you do it? Divide by the number of sides of the square, multiply your answer by the number of sides of a hexagon. If you want to use numbers, divide by 4, multiply by 6. They're going to start to give us this problem all the time as well. Turn the page in my math book, number 7. Round this number to the nearest 100,000. So the number is 481, 462. So nearest 100,000, guys, is this first none. Look at the 8. 5 to 9 goes up one time. That moves it to 500,000 for A. B says this time round to the nearest 1,000. This is the 1,000. I look at the 4. 4 keeps it the same. So everything stays the same in front of it. Everything turns to zeros after it. 481,000. Number 10. In the number 987654, which digits is in the hundred place? So I have 9, tenths, hundredths. I'm stopping right there. This number is in the hundredths place. Write a 7. Number 12. The vertices of a square are located at those points. Sketch the axis. So I just sketch that into my box. Draw the square as described. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Notice, guys, I always see what my points are before I start. I'm not going to mark out 10 by 10 if I only need to go to 3. Next one is over 3, but this time down 3. Next one is left 3 and down 3. Last one is left 3 and up 3. So I just sketched my square. Now use your drawing to answer questions B and C. B, what is the perimeter? I went from positive 3 to negative 3, guys. You could just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 gaps here, so it's a 6 by 6. Okay, so B, what's the perimeter? 6 times 4 is 24. We just call it units because that's how you do a coordinate plane. 6 times 6 for letter C to find the area. I have 36 units squared. Practicing our investigation that we did. Number 14, write the prime factorization of 2025 using exponents and then find what that is. You got it. So we got 2025. Now, I can divide by 25. I just don't know how many times 25 goes into that. So I have to do the math, guys. I can tell when it ends in 25, that 25 will go into it. But 25 goes into 200 8 times. That's 200. I subtract, I get a 25. That goes in there once. Now I'm back here and I got an 81. Now I know 25 is 5 and 5. 81 is 9 and 9. Those aren't prime numbers. I got to break them down to 3 and 3. Break this 9 down to 3 and 3. Now they said write that using exponents. I have 4 of those. So for letter A, my answer is 3 to the 4th power. 2 of those times 5 to the 2nd power. B says, tell me what the square root of 2025 is. Remember, guys, when you're going from the number to the square root of it, you cut your exponents in half. So B is the answer of 3, not 4, but 3, 2, not 5 squared, but 5 to the 1st, because I divide each my exponent by 2. That's not the answer for B, though. That's the math. So 3 squared is 9, times 5 is 45. That's my answer for B to get the answer. Now, it would have been easier, guys, if I knew that. If I knew the square root of 2025 was 45, I could have just broken down 45 to this and then doubled up to A. But I didn't know the square root of 2025, so I had to do that math and then use that to go the opposite direction. They keep giving us those questions, guys, to practice going both ways. Flipping your answer key over for number 17. It says name the properties. We start with 4/3 and 3/4 x equals 4/3 times 1/4. The next problem, they have 4/3 times 3/4. This time this is in parentheses instead of this in parentheses. X equals the same thing. You switched parentheses, guys. That's the associative.
Change groupings. Now you took 4/3 times 3/4 and you have 1x. A number times its reciprocal is the inverse. Remember, when it equals 1, it's the inverse. The next one, I multiply by 1, that's identity. So keep practicing those. Equals 1, inverse. Times 1, identity. Then they did the math. Number 18. We have a problem. It's 9n equals 8 times 12. 9n equals, I did the math, that's 72. This means multiply, so I divide. When I divide, the 9's cancel, and 72 divided by 9 is 8. That's how we write algebra, guys. Get used to that. We're going to start to do that more and more as the year goes on. Number 23, I have 5/8 times. I have to make it improper. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. That goes over 5 times 4/9. Cancel the 5s, leave 1s. Divide by 4, goes in there twice. Divide by 3, goes in there 4 times. Come back, divide by 2, divide by 2. So you can see on the top, I'm left with a 2, and on the bottom, I'm left with the 3. So when I do good canceling, we really get to a small fraction. 24. Make them improper. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So I have 8/3 divided by 1 times 4 is 4, plus 3 is 7, 7/4. Now I go through my rules, stays the same, changes to multiplication, flips over. Multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. I can't cancel anything now. So I multiply the tops, I get 32. I multiply the bottoms, I get 21. Divide in there, 21 goes in there 1 time, subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1, 3 minus 2 is 1, and the 21 stay the same, 1 and 11/21. 26, adding 3 1/2 plus 1 5/6. Have to have common denominators. It happens to be a 6. So I said, how do I get to a 6? Times 3/3. That gives me 3/6. The 5/6 stays the same. I bring my whole numbers with it. I add 3 plus 5, and I get 8/6. 1 plus 3 is 4. I now simplify this. The first thing I did was reduced it to 4/3, guys, by dividing by 2. 3 goes into 4 1 time. I have 1 left over, so I have 1/3. I add my 1 plus 4 whole numbers, and I have 5 1/3. 28. Evaluate this expression for A3, B4. So the first one I have 4/3 plus 3/4. Okay, I need to find common denominators. Now, guys, this might bother you that it's improper. It's not going to bother me until we have to add them together. Common denominators are going to be 12. So I'm going to multiply by 4/4 here. I'm going to multiply by 3/3 here. Multiply gives me 16/12 and 9/12. I now add those together. 16 plus 9 is 25/12. 12 goes into 25 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. So 25 minus 24 is 1/12. So I have 2 1/12. Guys, if you can't do that, you got to pay the price and write your division bar out there so that you can get it and see it for yourself. Make sure you're making decisions on what you're capable of doing so you can do it on a test and you can do it without a teacher someday. Number 30, a half a circle or half turn measures how many degrees? A whole circle is 360. Cutting it in half goes once. 16 is 8 into 0, 0. So you might have known that. A half a turn would have been 180 degrees. B, what's a quarter? So now they're showing you on that picture, guys. They cut it in half. Now they cut it in half again. So I'm just going to cut it in half again. Goes in there 90 times. And now they cut it in half again. So I'm going to cut it in half again. And it goes in there 45 times. I hope you didn't have to do this personally. I hope you have it memorized. Half a circle, 180. Half of that is 90. Half of that is 45, guys. We use those measurements all